Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. Tonight, we have an episode with Connor Tyke, Alex Von Reich, and then I'm Thaddeus Claus. Connor Tyke is a co-owner of a real estate company where they manage rentals, they flip homes, and then Connor also has his residential real estate license, so he does everything real estate. And we've got Alex Von Reich, who's the is the owner, not co-owner, of Control Analytics, and he's our data and AI expert, keeping us updated on all the developments, which each and every month there's something new, so it's always fun to hear what's going on. And then I own a general contracting company here in Arizona. We did $850,000 in projects last year, and we focus on residential remodels. So we've got a full docket tonight. We're going to review what's gone on in the business from the last month, what we're working on to continue to grow the companies. And then we have a segment that we call Company Thoughts. But before we get to all of that, we need to catch up with the boys. So, boys, what have we been up to?
You are looking at a future, maybe sort of kind of curling Olympian champion. So I tried curling for the first time. It is just as much about pushing rocks on ice as it is about eating pizza and drinking beer, and it sounds like my kind of sport.
I feel like that sport should be a lot more beloved in America than it is.
Dude, it was
kind of like cornhole on ice.
Pretty much. It was really fun. We did like a course. We played with a lot of other newbies. It was super fun. Everyone was really, really chill, and literally the whole thing after is like the winner typically buys the first round, and then the losers typically buy the second round. So you're almost always guaranteed to have 2 drinks at least after every game, and then there's typically food and stuff after too. So it's very like communal. It was definitely a lot harder than I thought. Like on camera, you don't realize how far back. It's 150 feet. And so, yeah, like it's far, and there's like a very short period of time you have to slide and push the rock, and then you have to let go. So like it's far back, and almost everyone in our group was either sending it like soaring or it would get stuck like halfway. But it was really cool. It was super fun. Watched some old guys like just eat it on the ice, which was hilarious. Luckily I didn't, but it was a good time.
That's called elder abuse.
Hey, they did it themselves.
They fell after you threw the rock and swept their legs.
I mean, it's hard. They give you like a little guide to like lean on when you slide out.
I tried about a decade ago.
Yeah.
We were in Canada.
Nice.
I did like 3 or 4 throws. You call them throws, pushes. It is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it just an ice rink you went to?
No, it was like a special club like near Chicago. So it was like an actual curling club. They have 4 whole lanes, and they've been around since like the 30s. It's awesome.
That's wild. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so like all the club, and it was surprisingly cheap if you wanted to do a membership, their season, so to speak, is from like August to March. It's like $320. You get to come as often as you want. Like, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Bring your own.
Is that like $40 a month?
Yeah, right. You don't need to bring your own stones, but people typically have their own shoes and brooms. So yeah, it's a good little workout going over and over again.
Yeah. It was funny watching the Olympics and seeing the guys with their hands taped up, and you're like, why are their hands taped up and all that? And my sister was like, how hard they're scrubbing, they're getting blisters on their hands. And I'm like, oh geez, like, so these guys are really getting after it.
Well, and I learned that there's different ways to sweep too. Like you can actually help it curl more, so it curves around a little bit more to get around things. There's all these different techniques, and it was super interesting.
Does the sweeping speed it up or slow it down?
Speed it up. So if it's going too fast, you don't sweep. And then when you're on the other end, like the skip or whatever who's making the calls, he once the rocks get past the halfway line on the target, they can sweep as well, so it keeps sliding off the target. So there's like all these different. It's way different from a lot of other like. It's different from like darts or bocce ball or anything where you're on 100% control. like between the ice and then people sweeping and the calls and stuff, and then there's rotation that you add to, so it's almost like bowling where you're curving it a little bit. It was a lot more complex than I was expecting.
That's fun.
Yeah, and then we saw Disney and ice, so a very ice themed month, I guess.
Yeah. Winter's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, right. So that was cool.
You live in Wisconsin?
Yep.
Winnipeg or something like that.
Winnipeg. It's just southern Canada, just separated by a couple Great Lakes.
Yeah. Which, go USA. Canada sucks. Thank
Amen.
you, hockey.
Isn't that the first time we won in like a while?
Since the Miracle on Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1980s.
I just started that documentary. I gotta get up to date.
Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
I didn't do a whole lot this month, but wife's family came in, and then we went to Lucy's at the Grove for a lunch. I don't know if you guys have been there.
Nice. Yeah.
Big patio, fun area. Got out a couple weeks ago. Join the heat. You're not missing much, Alex.
Isn't it like 90 out there already?
Like 94 on Monday.
Oh,
it was hot.
No. Yeah, no, thank you.
Rough.
Yeah, it's 39 degrees right now.
Yeah, I'm keeping 90.
I haven't sweat due to the sun in like 6 months. It's been nice.
Wow,
that's terrible.
You should try a sauna.
Yeah, I did do a sauna actually. That was fun. Yeah, but that's not due to the sun.
Maybe go touch grass or something.
Oh, there's plenty of that over here, and you don't need to water it either.
Oh, there's just snow on the ground.
No.
I just imagine it's frigid winter where you are right now, and there's just constant snow. It's bleak and cold. Just so you know what I'm envisioning when I think of where you're at.
I'll send you a picture of the backyard.
What everyone sees right now is you like in a bomb shelter in the
in a 36 square foot.
Yeah, you're just waiting for spring, hoping to God the sun returns.
Yeah, when I come out of hibernation, I have to be really careful because I get so white that I just reflect the sun. It's like a disco ball.
It's dangerous for the wife and kids.
It's dangerous for everyone, and then eventually I just turn red, and then it goes back to being the same white. And maybe I turn a little bit more red, kind of like Connor is right now, a little red complexion.
Yeah, there's a little red.
All dark white. It's still white, just darker. You wouldn't be able to tell unless your winter self stood next to you, and you're like, "Oh,
exactly.
That's weird."
One's like a sheet of paper, and one's like a slightly darker sheet of paper.
Yeah. We went to dinner at the Deer Valley Airport. We didn't realize that there was a restaurant there, and it's pretty cool because they have like a bar inside, and then they have their restaurant, and then above it they have like an observatory deck where you can go watch the planes take off. So we went out there and watched the planes and helicopters take off, and my son he loves planes and helicopters, so he was just pointing and he was all excited. So that was a lot of fun. And then, so we had a Super Bowl party, had a bunch of people over at our house, and then what else did we do? I bought a truck that Connor talked me into. I was telling myself no, and then Connor was like, "You should get it." And then he texted me a couple days later, "Did you buy it yet?" And then I was like,
"Man up!"
He starts talking to the owner of the truck on my behalf. It's like, "Hey, they'll take it for this. They'll let you have it for this price." And I'm like, "Geez." So I bought it because I'm good at spending money.
Well, the full story is I'm on a listing appointment, and I see that the neighborhood's familiar, and I go, "Oh, Thad's house is right there, and the house I'm going to is 6 to the north." And after the conversation, I talked to the guy. He says, "Oh, I'm also selling my truck. If you know anyone who wants a truck." I say, "Thad always buys new trucks." I'll let Thad know about this. I said, I told the guy, "We'll do a 2-for-1. He'll buy your truck and I'll buy your house." And apparently he only took the truck so far.
Yeah. So we need to get that in writing before.
Yeah. Connor can be a truck broker just to Thaddeus. That's the side gig.
I'm just trying to connect people,
There you go.
And then I'm going to brag a little bit. This is kind of getting into the business part of things, but I found a new way to convert leads or get leads and convert them quickly. So I went to Elevation Window and Door, and I had a meeting there, and I park. I'm walking inside. Another dude's walking up at the same time, hold the door open for him, and he goes, "Hey, do you guys sell the accordion doors for houses?" And I go, "Yeah, they've got a great brand that they do with that." He's like, "Cool." Starts laying out plans on the table inside the entryway, and he's like, "I've got this wall right here that I want to try and take out the windows and put the accordion door right there." And I was like, "Hey, I got to stop you real quick. I'm a general contractor, but let me get one of the guys." And he's like, "Well, I think I need to talk to you too." And so it ends up that now we're under contract to be the contractor to do all that work for him, along with we're doing a smart switch system in his house and a bunch of other things. So
there you go.
That all took place within a couple weeks. So they're a great couple. I'm looking forward to working with them. We got the door ordered today, and we're going to be getting after it starting. We're going to start the demo and some of the other work on Monday, and then to try and get ahead of the door and all that stuff. But it was hilarious. Literally just, "I think I need to talk to you too." I was like, great.
That's your free marketing strategy. Just hang outside the door, stay in your truck. You see someone else coming. "Oh, let me get the door for you."
Yeah. It's the law of reciprocity. It's like, "I got the door for you. You got a job for me?"
Yeah. The me opening the door is going to cost about $90,000.
Yeah, essentially. So, yeah, it was hilarious.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about your last story, the other one you have in the notes there? I'm most curious about that one at the doctor's.
So I'm the stereotypical guy that works in the trades. I don't go to the doctor unless like something's really, really wrong. So I haven't been to a primary care doctor since probably it was a pediatrician.
Oh no!
But you're feeling healthy, right?
I'm fine. But my wife is like, "You need to go get things checked out, and I want to make sure you live." And I'm like, "Yeah." But so I go to the doctor. We're talking about like, "Hey, how's this going? How's that going?" And I'm like, and he's like, "All right." Oh, so I scheduled my appointment for like 7:30 in the morning because I was like, "Let's just get it done. I can move on with work for the rest of the day." And so I just woke up that morning, just didn't eat breakfast, just left the house. So I show when I got there, he's like, "All right, and then we're gonna do some blood work. Did you eat today?" And I was like, "Nope." Kind of convenient. Didn't know I wasn't supposed to. And so we go there. They poke my arm to try and start taking blood, and then she didn't get it, so she pulls it out and she goes to go back in. I was like, "Hey, just a heads up, I'm getting lightheaded." Like, and she's like, "All right, well, just hang on, like take some deep breaths." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going out." And so apparently, like, I'm trying to concentrate as far as like just kind of stay here, and then all of a sudden there's more people around me than there were before, so I knew I went out. And they're like, "Yeah, we got the blood draw, so we're all good." So there is a space in there that I definitely was completely out for.
Whoa.
But they're like, "You're all right. Did you drink any water this morning?" I was like, "Nope. I just got out of bed, I got dressed, and I drove here." Like, and they're like, "Yep. If you don't eat and don't drink water when you're doing blood, a lot of people just pass out." So I was like, "All right, whatever." So, but a couple minutes later, it was good to go. Went and got breakfast after that, and we were all good. But it was hilarious. So,
well, glad you're okay.
yeah.
Now you know.
I've blacked out enough times where like I know when it's happening that it's like, "Oh, hey, I think we're going out." So,
and here we go.
And awake. What I miss?
Yep, essentially. So
that was a great nap.
They just, while you're blacked out, they just took your blood and just sent you home.
Yeah, they're like, "All right, let's get it done."
He's out anyways. What is he going to pass out
What
twice?
else do we need?
Yeah. So
Jeez.
yeah, I started. There's a time I started. I only did it a couple times, but I deadlifted and then would black out afterward. And so I knew it was happening one time. And so I started to figure out, like, okay, if I was working out by myself too, like in my backyard, so no one was around. And essentially it's like I figured out how to black out and then get in the right position and then come back to, and then like, all right, let's get back to it. And just keep moving on.
But at least you broke your record, Thad, of 135. So that's pretty
good.
Good.
Yeah. I did 135 on deadlift for 97 straight, and had to just flip my grip and finish the 100 one time. It was nonstop.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a while ago. But anyways,
crazy.
Let's get in the business side of things. But before we do, we need to do a little public service announcement for all our people who really care as much as we do about our unofficial or official unofficial sponsor, Shamrock Farms chocolate milk. Now, I'm at the store the other day. I'm at Winco, and I see they've got their quarts on sale for, it was like $2.50. Usually they're like $3.50. So I was like, let's load up on those sons of guns. And so I think between yesterday and today, we're about to destroy half a gallon of chocolate milk. So hit up your local Winco, grab as much as you can, buy them out, tag Shamrock Farms on Instagram, let them know that you love them, that even if you become lactose intolerant, you don't care. You will continue to drink Shamrock Farms chocolate milk.
Beautiful. Brought a tear to my eye.
Gets me every time.
All right, let's get into the business stuff. So action steps from last month were to create a sales motion. And so we got that done. And one of the things that we're doing is we recorded a VSL or a video sales letter that we're going to start sending out as a part of the sales motion. So what we're trying to do with that is have it where it's more of a curated experience for the customer all the way through. So we want to start with trying to get an idea. One of the things that I didn't do as often was trying to get a rough budget on the phone. Usually I'd ask like, hey, what are you guys looking to do? Oh, it's a bathroom remodel, kitchen remodel. But trying to be intentional with how much they're looking to spend on that. And then it's give them ranges on what that's going to be. That way it's, because sometimes it gets into this weird spot of who's going to blink first, who's going to say a number first, right? Because the customer feels like if really the bathroom's only going to cost $25, but they say they're willing to spend $35, the bathroom ends up costing $35. So they don't want to put the number out there first. But for me, it's like, hey, like, I don't care. Like, here's how much it's going to cost. Like, or the rough ballpark to try and just see, is that something that they're like, oh, we thought it was going to be half of that or whatever it is. So, but trying to get that. And then going from there, we want to have it that we're going to have a we already do this, but we have a calendar invite they get copied on just so that they don't have it where, oh, I forgot we're doing that today. It has the notification for them as well. And then we're also going to be sending them the VSL to where it's a little bit about us, trying to show what's the differentiation between us and the other companies, and the specific things that we do, the things that we pay attention to, and try and build a little bit of that connection before we have our walkthrough. And then when we do our walkthrough, we're going to talk about like their scope, schedule, the previous experience they've had with contractors. And the reason why we're trying to do that is because we're trying to pick up on if they have good experiences, how do we match that? And then if they've had bad experiences, how do we say we're not that, and demonstrate that to them? So, and it's just the building trust during this time. So, and then we're trying to not just, okay, we've got the scope, like we're going to be a good contractor for you, but explaining our process. And then before we leave, we're going to try and schedule an estimate review. And this is something that I think I talked to you guys about a little bit, and I was hesitant to do because usually I would just send them an email, or I felt weird about, hey, let's like jump on a Google Meet or a Zoom or whatever, and we'll go over the estimate rather than just, oh, I'll follow up with a phone call. And I've done it a couple times now, and I feel like I've had pretty good results with it, and it's been a smoother process. So I was really happy about that. And then in our estimate, one of the things that we're really trying to do is give a couple options for upsells and then also for downsells on the different line items. And so honestly, the project that I was mentioning earlier that I met the people at the window and door company, we had it in there. They had a certain door that they were looking at. They said, we want to do this accordion style door. But I had in there, hey, here's an alternate. It's a multi-slide door, so it's a different type of function, but it's going to have a similar aesthetic, and then you're going to have kind of the same thing. It's a lot of glass. You'll be able to have a large entryway when it's open, and that price was a lot cheaper. They wanted to do dimmers for their whole house, but then it was I asked if they wanted to do a smart system for their house, and so we were able to have this one's a downsell, this one's an upsell, and so we had a couple of those options. And they were able to say, okay, we want this one, and then we want this downsell. We had that also with a master bathroom project, and it seemed to work pretty well because our estimate came in higher than what they had anticipated for their budget. And our pricing was really competitive for their project, but it's just more than they had anticipated. But we were able to have some options for them as far as, hey, here's some downsell options. So it made it where they're getting to choose off of a menu rather than having the different estimates and trying to get a whole bunch of different estimates and choosing between those. So we're trying to make the experience more, you're not choosing between a bunch of contractors, you're choosing between several different options, but we're still the contractor doing it. So, and then when we get on that Google Meet with them, we're able to address any questions they have. So going back to the one for the elevation that they had some question, I had a line item on there for roofing, and they said, hey, like, why do we have that on there? Because I don't think we're touching anything with the roof. And I was able to explain the way that we're adding some new electrical lines. It's going to require roof penetration. So we need to make sure we have that in there. And it's like, oh, okay. But if you have our estimate and someone else's estimate, and they just forgot to put it in there or didn't put it in there, theirs is going to start looking cheaper just because they forgot or aren't accounting for it. And it's like, are they going to get hit with a change order on the back end? Is it not going to be as good of a product? Is the customer not going to be taken care of? But having it where we can go through the estimate with the customer has allowed us to really say, like, hey, here's why we put it in there, and here's why here's why our process is what it is. So, and then trying to have it where after on this, it's like when we have the job acceptance, trying to make sure that, yep, we're on it. Things are getting ordered right away. So they feel that everything is moving forward. We want to establish trust beginning to end, start to finish. So that was the big thing that we worked on with that. So next month, we're looking at trying to meet some of the neighborhood trades. So there's a business park, like essentially a square mile over from where I'm at. And there are a lot of trades between cabinet companies, countertop companies. I believe there's some paint companies, all kinds of different stuff right there. So it's going to be just trying to make the introduction. They're a mile away. So to me, it's just, let's try and see if we can start creating subcontractor contacts that can refer us other jobs. It's not the most common, but if we can spread that net wide enough, sometimes we can start to get some referrals that way. So that's what we're looking at. And then, I had the next thing in my lesson or topic I wanted to highlight was the options, the estimate, but I think I kind of covered that for the most part. So I think I'm short and sweet tonight. That's what I got.
Have you had a chance to really iterate much on this, or do you feel like you're still at the very front end of this?
It's still new. We haven't had a ton of times that we're testing it out just yet, but we've had a couple of the Google Meet calls and just trying to be intentional with how we present it that way. And so we got the VSL recorded, but we need to get it edited all the way with some cut-in areas, like pictures of projects we've done, and then having like an end screen with some of the reviews, stuff like that. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. So, cool. All right, Connor, what do you got?
It was an eventful month, I'll say. But we'll go over some industry stuff going on in real estate, and overall it was a good month. Active listings are up to 28,900. Last month was 27,800. But the great news is closes were up about 20%. So last month 4,800, and now it's 5,900. So closes are increasing, which is great. And then interest rates dropped a little bit from 5.4 to 5.3. And that's off a purchase of a new home, 20% down payment. So normally this time of year, yeah.
On the interest rate, and maybe this is a topic for next month, but when would be a good recommendation for people to refinance as far as what percentage rate drop on the interest rate? Because we had a period where most of the interest rates were about 6.5% or 6.25. And so we're seeing about a 1% drop, but things seem to kind of still be trickling down a little bit. When is it a good time for someone to say, hey, we're going to pull the trigger on refinancing?
Good question. My rule of thumb is highly consider it if it's a percentage lower than where you're at, especially if you're gonna lock in for 30 years. Some people do like a 5-year, 7-year loan, but it's highly consider at least getting an estimate or quote if you're a percentage less. And any mortgage broker is going to say, well, let's wait a couple days, maybe it goes down next week, and no one really knows. It kind of ticks up, ticks down. But I like to look at if it's a trend down for like 6 straight weeks, it could continue or it might not. But if that monthly payment is going to make an impact on you, like a percentage could be $250, $300. That's significant. Then highly consider doing that. What I've done even in past episodes is I talk about the annual percentage rate. Some loan officers, they'll quote you to get a lower interest rate by paying upfront costs to basically buy down your rate. And that's something to watch. So you don't overpay to try to get a lower rate on that.
The other thing I hear is some people will, some loan officers will offload the fees and like spread it across the part of the loan. So if it's like this is a little bit outrageous, but like a $10,000 refinance fee, they add it to the overall amount of the loan and spread it across that 30 years. So you're actually paying more principal. So you got to be a little bit cautious of that, as well as something to know is you don't have to stay with your current loan provider. So if you're considering refinancing, you can switch your loan at any point. There's a lot of competition there. So that's something that I recently learned about and was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good resources out there.
Yeah, talk to mortgage brokers who they might have 5 to 10 different lenders they work with, and they'll shop rates, and you want to shop rates because every bank's different. They're using the same data, but they come up with their own interest rates on the actual mortgages. So that's a good idea, Alex. But overall this spring, it's kind of ticking higher sales, which is great. It is very cyclical in Phoenix as we're getting into February, March, April, even into May. Closes go up, which is great news if you're selling a house. Recapping some numbers, we had a couple more vacancies that were a little harder to get filled, but we did end up leasing just actually over the weekend. Had move-ins in an apartment and a house, which is great. And then got another lease signed for a house later this month. We still have 2 open apartments, but those are in Tempe, and it's kind of a weird time in March where students aren't coming in for the spring semester, they're leaving for the summer. So we don't get the rush. But I did try a couple different things, hiring leasing agents to help lease for me. And one of the guys found a tenant within like 10 days, and he charged half a month's rent to fill it. And I didn't have to do any showings. He wrote the lease, he moved in the person, and it took a lot off my plate, and I could focus on the other sales and transactions we're doing. So that was pretty cool. And I actually ended up trying to I hired 3 leasing agents overall for different properties, different 1-bedrooms, see how they work, see how we work together. And the other 2 are still working, trying to lease the other apartments. That was something we tried out this week.
Nice.
It is the 4th of the month, and we're almost fully rent collected. Couple normal stragglers coming in, but they're in communication. No, have not filed any evictions this year, so I am happy camper.
Do you typically do late fees on those stragglers, even if they are communicative, or how does that typically hand that for your portfolio?
Yeah, we do late fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a one-time initially, and then it's a daily fee.
Gotcha. Do you give like a grace period the first time it's late, or you immediately do the?
We give 2 days. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Mhm. And then after that, it's kind of they know it, and sometimes a paycheck's coming, or they just didn't budget
Yeah.
properly, and they're
Yep.
like, "Oh no." So almost fully collected, which is good, and 2 vacancies. So overall, we're happy with it. Action steps from last month were to actually sell our flip. We were in escrow. We were pretty close to selling it. So we actually did, closed it. The new buyers moved in. As far as I know, they're happy. I took my sign out, and it's theirs at this point. Always a good feeling. And then we ended up buying the other house, the manufactured home. We closed on that as well
Nice.
later in February. So 1 sale, 1 purchase, and then we're under contract on another house to buy, closing maybe in March, mid-March. It's already March, mid-March. Another action step was make an offer on every house that I see, even if I don't think it makes sense, because you never know what the person's going to do. Sometimes they just like you or want to offload the house, and it works. So I did end up saw I think 4 other houses, and ended up making offers on all of them, and just following up with them. And sometimes the timing isn't right, but I'll continue to follow up, and maybe something will come of it. So that was exciting. And then action steps going into next month. Our manufactured home, we're not going to really renovate it a whole lot, just cleaning up and fixing up a few things that are broken. And then we're going to try to just list it for sale as is. And the house is in pretty good shape. Overall, there's just a couple windows that need to be replaced, some ceiling paneling that's broken, and leveling of the house. It's a manufactured home, so some leveling underneath that needs to get taken care of. But we're going to try to list it for sale as is. And if we get an offer, great. If not, we might do a little more work to it and to update it. But when I've heard that the neighbors, they're always interested in, it's a 55 plus, but they're always interested in who's going to come live next door. And they're all telling me, this is a great cul-de-sac. I've been here 20 years, and they're all excited. And like, this one, she lived here and she's over there, but we're happy here. So the neighborhood's lively. I'll say even this time of year, it's a snowbird season.
What's the update on the mailers and the phone center that you were working with?
Yeah, good question. I continue to send mailers weekly, different lists, and I did a rotation of 8 lists, and I send to 1 list every 8 weeks. That's what I'm doing. So I think I hit the end of all 8. So I start remailing to the first list next week. So I'm just doing that on rotation, and then I get some calls, not as much from them, but it's a timing thing. And they say on touch 3 to 4, maybe I'll get more traction for other people who say it. So mail someone 4 times, which would be, after, I don't know, 6 months of the first touch, maybe they'll call or get more traction. But it's definitely consistency thing for that. I'm sending out new mailers. I had a custom card created, and I don't know if it's doing better, not really, but I like it. So and then our cold calling center, hired a new one. We're on month 2 technically with them. We started late January, and I'd say the leads are a lot fewer than the first company, but these leads I think are better quality. Like, people are actually remember that they talked to someone about selling their house, as opposed to, why are you calling me again? Go,
Yeah.
well, they called you, and there was confusion on what was going on. So
Gotcha.
there's fewer leads, but from them, I've made 4 offers from them, 1 under contract, and then continuing to talk to these other people. So
heck yeah.
well, they rank them as and they're providing call logs as well. I can listen to conversations just without my request. That was a big thing from the last company. They couldn't provide call logs, and I thought that was kind of strange.
Interesting.
So this company, I can listen to the call prior if I want. They have a ton of detail, and they rank them based on a hot lead, warm lead, cold lead. And I only pay for hot and warm leads. And those are if the person actually shows like intent to sell.
Mm-hmm.
A cold lead is, yes, I own a house. No, I don't want to sell. But they'll still give me the cold leads. But I only pay for 15 hot and warm leads, which is cool. And then if they don't hit those 15 in the month, they'll get a second cold caller, or I don't pay until they actually hit that mark.
Gotcha.
But quality, I think, is a lot better than the first company, and just continue working with them. And I'm really not doing any other marketing besides the cold call and mailers. Other stuff I thought about is connecting with realtors. I haven't really done a whole lot of that. Just trying to focus on these 2 avenues, because you can really go deep, and there's opportunity with these 2. So trying to focus on that. One call I had a cold lead, which is pretty cool. It was a guy, he owned a house in North Scottsdale, and he's from out of state, Wisconsin, actually, funny enough.
Nice.
And his daughter lived in the house out here, and I talked to him over the phone, and he's a really cool guy. He's older, early 70s, and it turns out he owns a bunch of real estate up in Wisconsin. He's, I don't know, mini real estate mogul, owns McDonald's and built gas stations and convenience stores, and it was pretty cool. And he came out to Phoenix, and I ended up meeting with him at a Starbucks, and he brought his wife and daughter. They wanted to meet me too. And we just had a 2-hour conversation of his life and how I can help. And he's just an older dude with a ton of assets and not really an idea of what to do with them. So I helped connected him to a group that does exit planning for entrepreneurs, and maybe something comes of it, maybe not, but it was just cool to meet the dude and hear his story and see what he's got going on. It was a lot, and it was pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
And that came from just a random cold lead.
Nice.
So I guess a lesson I'd want to highlight from this is when I go on appointments and someone needs to sell their house fast for cash, or not sure what to do with their house, oftentimes it's inherited. It's really just being genuine with the people and understanding they might be in a tough situation, maybe not, but oftentimes the ones I've been on, either it's inherited or helping a family member, or someone's getting old, and just trying to work with them through their situation. And maybe our offer works, maybe not, but I also give them an avenue of I can help list your home. I connect you with people who also could help, but just trying to be honest and real and compassionate with the people who are. I mean, I had one lady, she's crying in her living room, not sure what to do with the house, and try to come up with a solution or help her. And they can be really touchy situations. So just trying to be compassionate and genuine with the people, because of course I want to make a profit, but also on the other end, there's someone that's hurting, that actually needs help, and trying to guide them through the process, as opposed to just taking advantage of the person, which happens all too often in the industry. That's something I just wanted to highlight.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call out.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? Up to anything? Or
Well, I have this really weird real estate agent that's helping me sell my house. We listed it today. No, Connor's, for those of you who are interested, Connor is listing my house. So very exciting. He gets to hang around for an open house this weekend. So if you want to stop
Should we
on
shout
by,
out the house? So
Yeah. If you want to go to, if you want to buy the house on 13002 North 23rd Place, more than welcome to. It's a nice corner lot, has a nice pool, backyard, peach tree, and all the other goodies. So it's a great house. Anyways, in AI news, there are. Did you guys? I'm curious if you guys heard this. If it made it your way, did you guys hear about what went on with Anthropic, OpenAI, and the Pentagon?
I saw something happened, but I didn't understand what happened. I didn't even realize that the Pentagon had a contract with any of the AI carriers until it was, oh, this one's not working with them anymore. And this, I think OpenAI was being brought online.
Yeah. So basically, they were bidding with both of them. They had been using Claude for some stuff, but then Claude basically buckled down and said, "Hey, you guys are going against our agreement here." There was a $200 contract on the line, and Claude said, "Hey, we have safety restrictions that you can't use our AI." Did I say 200,000? 200 million.
200.
Yeah, 200 million. Sorry, $200 million contract. And there's safety restrictions on Claude saying, hey, you can't use Claude for mass domestic surveillance, and you can't use it for fully autonomous weapons because that goes against our thing. And basically, the government came back and said, well, you're gonna do what we tell you to, or else you're not getting this contract. And they said, okay, we're not getting the contract then. And we've seen something that's never happened before. The Department of Defense labeled a U.S. company as a supply chain risk to national security. So essentially blacklisted Anthropic, and then said, "Hey, OpenAI." They had been talking to Sam Altman the whole time, and he said, "Yeah, we'll sign the contract for $200 million." And then he basically says, "Oh yeah, we agreed that we wouldn't do that either." And everyone's like, "Yeah, sure, buddy." And now they're kind of running back. They're backpedaling a little bit because OpenAI has now lost a ton of users who are now migrating from that. They're like, "Yeah, you're full of shit." And now everyone's going to Claude. So Claude over the weekend became the #1 most downloaded app, beating, and now OpenAI is #2. So yeah, they weren't really anticipating the blowback for that. But
and who owns Claude again?
Anthropic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So
keeping track of the different.
Yeah, Anthropic, Claude, same company. ChatGPT, OpenAI, same company.
So they were just in discussion about the contract. They weren't actually using them yet.
It
sounded like they were using them.
It sounds like they were using it before. So I think they canceled the contract. I think Claude already had a government contract with them, because some people are saying there's rumors on the internet, and take everything with a huge grain of salt, but some people are saying, yeah, well, Anthropic knew that it was being used for this stuff anyways, and they only decided to make a hubbub about it now because it was good for the press or whatever, and clearly it worked in their favor, because it makes them look like the good guys. So but who knows? Behind closed doors, you don't really know what those companies are being used for. But it's a really bad look for OpenAI now. So I don't typically get invested in the stories where it's more of the kind of like, oh, this is how you should feel about things. But it's very unique that this is the first time ever that we've seen the government blacklist a U.S. company for not doing what they want it to do. So at least this publicly, this is kind of, so I'm interested to see, and courts and stuff work really, really slowly. So maybe a couple of years from now, we'll hear about some kind of lawsuit of the government suing Anthropic, or other way around. Who knows? But I'd be interested to see what happens there. Something else that also Claude related, Claude/Anthropic related, is Claude announced on February 24th, Claude Cowork. So Claude Cowork is a desktop app that you can have on your computer. So back in January, we talked about ClaudeBot, or OpenClaw, or the thing that essentially created an AI. Claude Cowork had a version of that where it could essentially see your desktop and move things around. It's not quite the same, and it's a demo thing that you can roll out. Upon the news of that release, there was a huge stock market crash where $285 billion of stocks were sold due to the announcement here. The biggest people hit were Adobe, Salesforce, and ServiceNow. So you had SaaS platforms losing 25 to 30% of their market cap due to AI-related news, which is insane. So some of it's bounced back a little bit, but it is crazy to hear a product announcement. Like, can you guys imagine 10 years ago a new iPhone coming out and then entire industries are essentially losing 30% of value? Like that's a bit wild to see. And maybe it just has to do with how speculative the markets have become. But it is interesting to see that the thought, not the proven performance, but the thought and hype of a feature related to AI is having such a monetary impact. So,
which part of the reason why specifically it affected the SaaS companies like that is because SaaS companies trade at such a high multiple, and they have they don't just have it's ARR, right? Annual recurring revenue.
yes.
Their ARR is 120%. So it's not, when you have a SaaS company, usually the companies that are paying for that, like I use Monday.com. The expectation is that if my company grows, I might either do one of two things: pay for a premium service or at least pay for more seats because I added a couple more employees. So the value of me as the purchaser of that SaaS product continues to go up year over year. So they can plot that out. And so for a lot of the companies that are publicly traded, they get fantastic multiples. So with what's happening on some of and with Claude Cowork particularly, what that started to do was kind of shake up some of the speculation and how some of those multiples were. So you saw a lot of that fall, but a lot of it is because we had previously a huge premium baked into SaaS products just because as a model, they monetized really well, and that for established companies like Salesforce, Adobe, and others like that, they seem to kind of throw off a lot of consistent profit or consistent cash. So that's what it seemed to be one of the big drivers of that.
But for a lot of the software as a service, you have to think that at the end of the day, the fundamental point is that you're going to enter data onto their software. If you're using Salesforce, you're using it for your marketing platform, you're entering data most of the time manually. And then when you have an agent that can do the navigation and entering for you, that radically changes how a system gets input, gets utilized, and it immediately changes how companies need to justify cost. So Salesforce is one of the biggest examples of this, when they've been suffering a lot in the past couple of years because they haven't been as AI focusing and they haven't had a good answer to AI. So people are like, well, what justifies us paying $5,000-$6,000, $500-$600, $1,000 a seat every year per person for this when we still have to do all the work? It's not like they're not staying competitive versus the other stuff that's coming up versus like, hey, you can hire an agent for $20 a month and it'll go work 24/7 and do X, Y, and Z.
So the problem was Claude could upload the work for them, not necessarily that the Salesforce software was going to become.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that it's not necessarily, but the software as a service is the value of it is going away because you can essentially have a personal tool or a personal agent that's doing all the work and looking up everything for you and tying it all together. So
I'd say, kind of to your point, Alex, is that, and what we've talked about in previous months, it's not necessarily that, the AI is going to come in and we're going to write our own SaaS platform, or the agent itself is going to be able to replace jobs, but it's taking a percentage of additional work that would need to be done. So with the OpenClaw one, there are certain companies who essentially they are getting each employee set up with their own version of the OpenClaw, and then they're seeing their output for each employee go up a percentage point. And so what they're seeing with that is, and how this ties back into the SaaS platform, is that if you needed to hire 1 or 2 people in your company the next year, which would have been extra seats for Salesforce, Adobe, or whatever, if you're not having to pay for those extra seats, you're still paying for Salesforce, Adobe, all those things, but you're seeing a contraction on their ARR, and that's how they're basing some of their multiples off of. So they're just seeing a contraction of the multiples more than anything. It's not that they're going to be rewritten or made obsolete.
But think about it this way. Think about completely different systems. So imagine this. In the current state, if I have Salesforce and I have a lead and I need to go, I have a meeting with this lead and I want to sell them and I want to make sure I have all the right information. I need to go look up the lead, make sure everything's right, make sure all the fields are filled out, make sure their contact information is right. I need to look up any notes on there, maybe do some research about them, or I hire an analyst who also takes an extra license to go do all of that stuff. Meanwhile, I could have an AI essentially do the exact same stuff for me, and I say, hey, I have a meeting with Thaddeus in 2 hours. Get all the information you have on it and provide it to me in a blurb so that I'm ready for a meeting. And then it does that. And I can let it run for 10, 20, 30 minutes, and then I don't need to pay for an extra license. It's now given everything exactly in the format that I expect. And so it's just changing how we're interfacing with things. So think about going from like paper to digital. Now all of a sudden we could have like huge spreadsheets and do all these crazy calculations and figure out all this like scale. So now you're seeing AI is being put on top of the data and saying, hey, do the analysis and gathering and organizing for me, and then I can just do the stuff that's important, that's actually the value add.
Yeah. But I think are any of those SaaS products going away? No, I just think they're seeing a temporary contraction off of the multiples, because a lot of times for the multiples on publicly traded companies, they're wild. It's insane.
But the ones that are going to break out in the next like organization of billion-trillion-dollar companies aren't necessarily going to be the ones, like, it's not going to be Salesforce with AI. A better example is something called Databricks, which is like a database service. But what they do is they have an AI where you can just say, hey, find me this information, and it writes the code to go find you the information, and you can tie it to an analyst, which is a different AI, that will then take the information that the first AI wrote and then give you an analysis of saying, oh, hey, leads dropped year over year because of X, Y, and Z. And so like that's available now. Granted, it's not very easy to configure. There's a lot of downsides to it, but that's the idea. And so you're seeing how people are interfacing with things changing, and that's where things could potentially shake up. But right now, we still haven't seen much like actual savings, much actual return on investment on this. A lot of it is still very much on, ooh, I see the potential. And like I've tested a lot of these myself. So one thing right now is both Google and Claude have things that you can tie into your browser. So Claude has an extension you can install. Gemini, you can do it natively, and you can tell it to essentially navigate the browser for you. I've done it for a few things. I've tried having it do like a job search for me, like, hey, go look at all these jobs based on all the stuff you know about me, find which ones you think are the best fit. It didn't do a great job of that, to be honest. I had another one where it interfaced with support for my mortgage company. I said, hey, go find out if my loan is assumable. It took 30 minutes to do it, but it filled out the chat, it responded to the person, and gave me a very detailed summary, which is awesome. So the way I see people leveraging it is like, hey, go get Claude, spend $20 a month, and then have it go argue with your internet or phone provider to give you better discounts and stuff like that. And you just let it run. And it's not perfect at doing that, but it's interesting to see how that's starting to evolve already. Yeah,
I think we're on the early side of it, because I know anecdotally I heard, and it was from different podcasts, but they're, like I said, they were setting up all their team with it. So, and how you've mentioned before, and how we've talked about, there are some companies that know how to be AI enabled, and then there's a lot of companies that are using AI, and that means they're using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever. But that doesn't mean they actually have any of the agentic stuff. And the agentic stuff is really only like a month or two old. So I don't think we're really going to see any of that true data from any of the companies that are using it for the next couple months, just because they're still figuring it out and then they have to roll it out to the team. But anecdotally, it does seem like there's some people who are starting to figure it out. But once again, I think like we talked about last month, it's how many people actually can use the humans that they work with correctly. And so it's like, do we really expect them to all of a sudden flip a switch overnight? Not really.
Right. So it's super interesting to see. And again, I think I've made this comparison before, but I see, especially being in analytics as long as I have, I see it being so similar to AI in terms of it's only going to be as good as your data and your infrastructure is. When your data and infrastructure sucks, AI can't really sort that out. It doesn't, if you don't even know the answer to the question and your data doesn't help point it in that direction, how are you expecting it to magically come up with answers? And I think a lot of people have the misconception that they're treating it more like magic than science. And I think that's where the downfall is like, oh, we'll just plug it into this piece of crap database that is missing data for all the key fields. Like, oh, why it doesn't work? Oh, this AI sucks. I'm like, no, like anyone was going to fail set up to that.
Yep.
So, all right, that's my AI rant for the night.
Cool.
Thaddeus, we don't want to hear my thoughts. What are your company thoughts?
All right, tonight's company thoughts are going to be on this idea of are you the team or are you on the team? And this came from a conversation I had with one of my employees, because we were talking about someone else actually and what they were doing, and there were some issues going on at the company that person was in, and they were having to take on some more responsibility, and they lead a department over there. So Ethan had asked me, hey, is he going to get paid more for taking on the extra work? And I was like, no, because how his position's structured, I don't think it is. But it made me think a little bit more about it. And because a lot of times people, especially if you're on social media, are going to be like, well, if you're doing extra, you should get paid for it, or don't do extra work, you're not paid for. And it started. So I sat on it for a while, thought about it, and then I got back to him. And I was like, hey, as I've thought about this, there's two types of people that I think we start to see, and it's the people that are the team, and then people that kind of ride the bench. Like if we were to take a basketball analogy, and I don't pretend that I follow basketball too much, but there you have your starters and you've got your key players, you've got role players, and then you've got guys who sit on the bench in case something bad happens, but they never really see any playing time. So if we were to try and draw a rough parallel to business, you've got guys who are going to be pulling the company forward the most. You've got role players who are going to be doing their job as things come up. And then you've got guys who are there really just punching in, punching out, and that's about it. So the position that my friend was in, where he was taking on the extra responsibility, he is one of the main guys who's driving things in the company. So as we talked about, it's that there's not going to be the immediate reward of, hey, you're doing a little bit extra now, we're kicking you immediate money. But it's more of the long term, and this is where you see, I think we've talked about people in leadership positions, people in a C-suite position, stuff like that, where you can see, you have to see yourself as part of the team rather than just being on the team before you're compensated in that way. So it kind of helped me think about, if as there are things that happen to the company, if things are going sideways, and if as an employee or just as a team member, if you're looking for, or if you're looking to take ownership and saying, this is my team and this is a representation of me and who I am as well, then how can I step up and help take care of it? You're putting yourself in a position to be like, you're on the team. For the people who see fires burning and it's not my problem, not my monkeys, not my circus type thing, it's okay, you're really riding the bench. Why this matters is because it should be that in the long term, when the company's winning, when the team is winning, the people who are really driving that team should be rewarded for it. And we see it in sports where the guys who really are those drivers, they get the huge contracts, they get the contract extensions, and the guys who are really riding the bench and kind of just punching in, punching out, we don't even know who they are. We don't care that they come and go, but for the guys who are those big drivers and sometimes even the role players, like that's where it's like, oh, if they come or go, that's who we care about. So it was just for me as far as it's are you the team or are you on the team? And I've thought about it a little bit more and more because I feel like our culture has very much, I feel like if we were to go back a couple generations, and this could be me, I could be wrong on this, but I think there was more of a company man type of attitude towards I work at this company, and so we help take care of the company. If the company needs something, it's like there was a general consensus of we step up and take care of things. But nowadays it's I get paid to do a job. If anything falls outside of that job, I do not do it. Now, part of that is a response to some companies having abused that before, but I think the pendulum has swung so far the other way that it's now more of a, hey, who's really on the team and who's really just here punching in, punching out.
I think from a perspective of someone who's come into management and more leadership, I've seen, and I've even felt myself when I first started, I thought hard work is what gets you realized and recognized, but hard work is so different across people. Some people define hard work as working 40 hours a week. Some people define hard work as, oh, well, I responded to an email at 8 p.m., so that's hard work. But what most leaders and most companies really want to reward is impact. It doesn't, like, just because you worked hard and you, from your perspective of, oh, you put a ton of hours in, doesn't mean you did something valuable. Like, if you look at two people in the trades, right, and you have two plumbers, and one plumber does the job in 30 minutes, the other one takes 8 hours to do it, the guy who works 8 hours isn't doing more for the company. He's working harder or working longer, but that's not necessarily making an impact. You care about the guy who can get it done in 30 minutes.
I think also during COVID, people saw that they could transfer jobs real easy and get a huge pay bump. And so there's a lot of job hopping, which it's good to look at if you're quote unquote underpaid, if there's another group that's going to pay you more, maybe take on more responsibility. But there is so much hiring going on. And now I don't think it's quite like that. Companies aren't hiring as much. So you almost have to, I actually have to maybe stay at your current organization and put in the impact and get promoted here, as opposed to just switching jobs or groups every couple years. So I think that might be, maybe it's going to come back around. Company.
I think from the white collar perspective, you've had a lot of huge tech layoffs where Salesforce, Microsoft, Facebook, all these huge FAANG companies have laid off thousands of people. Like, I think there's been upwards of 100,000 people laid off just in the U.S. alone, especially like tech jobs.
Workforce.
Yeah.
It's laid off 10%.
Right, and so like we've had a lot of white collar layoffs. So that means that supply and demand switches. So there's a lot of supply right now, and especially with AI applications. I've been on the other side and looking at people hiring. I've also been looking through jobs and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's a completely different market from a couple of years ago, where it was very much like an employee market. Now it is not, and so you can't just coast by. And the resumes that stick out are the ones that can show impact, not hard work. It's not impressive on a resume to say I could work 65 hours a week. It's no. I saved $2 million a year because of this thing that I built. Like, oh, great. Okay, I want that guy on my team. Easy.
Which, and I think to that point as well, it's when trimming time comes, it's even if you want to stay at the company you're at, what impact have you made to say, like, hey, no, this guy's a pillar here. And I think you're absolutely right on the impact thing, but I think the part too that a lot of people miss is they're not showing up with the intent to lean into the team.
Sure.
And it very much is. I think COVID was a big part of it, where there was a big shuffle and people started it. it, in a lot of people's mind, is not about the company. It's about them. And I think in sports, we're seeing it as well, where it's the players building a brand for themselves. It's not about the team. Like it used to be that players and teams used to hate each other. If we go back a generation or two, that if you were in one market, you hated the team in the other market. But now they're doing the jersey swaps. We're best friends. We're hanging out. And there's part of that that's good, but it's also that it's like, hey, having the idea of there's a team that like this is us, and it's trying to lean into that structure is also good at times. And I think the pendulum is very much on the individual, where it's, if I'm not getting paid for it, if I can just bounce and go somewhere else, if it's whatever it is, we've got a quick opt-out button or a quick, not my job, not my problem.
Yep.
So cool. All right, boys, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Connor Tyke Real Estate, and then TrinityHomesArizona.com.
Yep. Or you can find me at control-analytics.com or on LinkedIn.
And then we've got our Instagram, Cytobuilding, and then cytobuilding.com.
So until next time.
I hope your hammer stays accurate.
Your Wi-Fi fast.
And your work blessed.
See you, everybody.